Today, we're going to show you how to install a Torq Engineering 2-inch lift kit for your Toyota RAV4. Here's how you do it. Loosen the strut to knuckle bolts under the hood. Secure your vehicle to a lift and remove your tires and wheels. Next, remove the ABS wire and brake line bolts connected to the strut assembly and move the sway bar and link from the strut and out of the way. Unclip the ABS plastic bracket from the strut assembly. Remove the tie rod end bolts and move the tie rod out of the way. Support the lower shock control arm and remove the strut to knuckle bolts in the hood. Install the new front strut spacer to the factory strut, aligning the top notch on the spacer with the dot on the factory strut. Make sure they are tight by using a wrench and a long screwdriver or wedge for leverage. Install the new assembled strut back into the strut tower by supporting the lower shock control arm and loosely tightening the strut to knuckle bolts in the hood. Reinstall the strut to knuckle bolts and loosely tighten. Reinstall the ABS and brake line brackets to the strut. Install the new sway bar bracket to the strut using the provided M12 bolts, washers, and nuts. Now, install the sway bar to the new bracket. To ensure a tight and secure hold, use a wrench to hold the back of the bolt as you tighten. Go back and tighten all the bolts connecting the strut and knuckle, as well as those in the hood. Support the rear suspension crossmember with a jack. These are the 4 main bolts we'll be working with. Loosen, but do not remove, the rear cradle bolts to allow the cradle to drop and rest on the bolts. This is where the 1-inch spacer will be installed. Remove the front cradle bolts and slowly lower the cradle down enough to install the new 1-inch cradle spacers. Hand tighten the new washers and M16 bolts. Remove the cradle support from the unibody. Remove the bracket and rear cradle bolt. Now, using the new bolt, washer, and 1-inch spacer, reinstall the brackets by hand tightening the new bolt, securing the bracket. In case you get the brackets mixed up, the driver's side bracket has the notches. Install the new cradle spacers by moving the bracket out of the way. Connect the bracket to the unibody. Leave a little wiggle room as you install the other side. Once you have all the new bolts and spacers installed, go back and tighten the cradle bolts. Lightly tighten the small bolt connecting the bracket and unibody. These bolts are easily broken. Loosen the rear cam adjustment bolts and remove the rear sway bar bolts. Using a jack to support the rear lower control arm, remove the lower control arm to knuckle bolt and slowly lower the control arm. Once enough tension has been released, remove the spring and install the new rear spring spacer on top of the factory spring. Remove the rubber ring using a flathead screwdriver. Be sure to keep the factory rubber insulation between the spring and the new spring spacer. Install the new spring assembly, making sure the new spring spacer sits in the factory frame hole where the rubber ring used to be. Try to align the spring with the grooves on the lower control arm for an easier installation. Carefully raise the lower control arm into place and reinstall the lower control arm to knuckle bolt. Reinstall the rear sway bars. Tighten the rear alignment cam bolts. Reinstall your tires and enjoy your newly lifted Toyota RAV4.